Okay, check it now. He says you are live. Does not. It said we are. Well, in it's we. You know, I hit the end the live button, go live twice. ISUPK Durham, North Carolina. You want me to go out and come back in? Got it? Yeah, it's a little delay on it. Most high. Yeah. A little 7-second delay or whatever. Okay. So, audio's good? Most high in Christ. So let me get started. Well, you know what? No, it's not going to mess up. Just leave the everything there, and I'll just put it back together after class. Oh, shit. Oh, man, I feel bad. No, it was like that. Yeah, prologue. Most high in Christ. Shalom. Okay, here we are. Okay, Shalom Israel. Yahweh Ba'Shem Hawashai Barakatha to all the brothers. Yahweh Shema Alatha Ba'Shem Hawashai to all the sisters. We are the ISUPK, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commandant General Yohana. We're not affiliated with any other Hebrew Israelite group or religion. We teach the truth of the Bible that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, or First World people, are the true Jews. First Nation people are the true Jews of the Bible, the Israelites of the Bible. And that is our doctrine according to Lord and Christ, and that's what we teach every day. And the Bible is the foundation and our proof, okay? And I'm Officer 50 Yanazar. I'll be teaching a class tonight. Tonight is Friday, the Hebrew Lashawan Qadash class, or the Hebrew Lashawan Qadash in the Hebrew, which means the holy tongue, and we'll get into that. And I have with me Officer 500 Gapariath. So we'll be here tonight doing the best that we can to teach you a little something about this language that belongs to us exclusively. Exclusively. This language is our language. Nobody else can speak it. Nobody else is learning it. Nobody else cares about it. You understand what I'm saying? It's a good thing as far as I'm concerned because it belongs to us. I love exclusivity. Okay, so normally it would be Officer Thabawan who would be teaching the class, but he had business elsewhere. So me not being a linguistic scholar or anything like that, I'm going to teach that which I know, which is not much. And I'm also going to give a little historical foundation to our language to understand what has happened to our language and why there's so much confusion about our language outside of the ISUPK, because in ISUPK there is no confusion of this language. Now, what is the purpose of all of this? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Officer Gapariath read the prologue to the book Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, okay? and then we're gonna give kind of like a build up of the importance of learning our language, Hebrew, Lashawan Qadash, and we're gonna go. Of course, we're gonna go into the letters, the alphabet. You understand? And as I said before, a little history of the language. So, Baba Kashah, if you could read the prologue from, where I got it highlighted. Read that for me, brother.
Book of Ecclesiasticus. In the prologue. Pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words.
Already he's saying to you like, hey, listen, we did the best we could, but if we made any mistakes, forgive us. I must say, it took 3 generations of a grandfather, a father, and a son to produce this translation that we're reading right now. You understand? That's called the Apocrypha. Read on.
Which we have labored to interpret.
Which they have labored to worked hard to interpret for you. Read on.
For the same things uttered in Hebrew.
For the same things. Read it one more time.
For the same things uttered in Hebrew.
For the same things spoken in Hebrew. Read on.
And translated into another tongue.
And translated into another tongue.
Have not the same force in them.
Have not the same force in them. Meaning that they lose a little something in the translation. You understand what I'm saying? Now that's just one reason or one demonstration on how important us knowing the ancient, or what they call today Paleo Hebrew, the original Hebrew. Because when they translated out the Bible out of the Hebrew and the New Testament out of the Greek, there was some it didn't have the same force, so they lost a little something in the translation. And therefore, by us returning to the original language, the original form, which is mentioned throughout the scriptures and is known in Hebrew as the Lashawan Qadash, Lashawan Qadash, in the ancient Hebrew, Lashawan Qadash. Of course, ancient Hebrew is written from right to left, unlike the Western languages, which are written from left to right. Okay? So that's a distinction right there. Lashawan Qadash, which it means holy tongue, or Lashawan, which is tongue, Qadash, holy tongue. Holy meaning set apart. And that's very important to understand, that this language is set apart from all the other languages on the earth. As a matter of fact, it's the oldest language on earth. You understand? So we're going to get into, you got to finish reading that for me, brother Baba Kashar. Salakia.
For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but
not only just translating it into the Hebrew, into another tongue, it loses a little something. But read on. But not only these things, but
the law itself.
The law itself. What is the law? The law is the first 5 books of the Bible, from Genesis to Deuteronomy. You understand? All of these things lose a little something when they're translated from Hebrew into another tongue. Read on.
And the prophets.
And the prophets. What are the prophets? The prophets are the books that come after the first 5 books of Moses, from Joshua all the way to Malachi. You understand? That's those are the prophets of the Most High. What they wrote down, what they had written down, is what he's talking about. The law itself and the books of the prophets, they lose a little something in translation. So it's very important for us to understand it from the original text, from the original context. And that's what we do here in the Lashawan Qadash class. Not only do we learn the alphabet and the language and the words and how these sentences are put together, but we learn the true meaning of these words and the true understanding of the Bible itself. Any more on that?
God.
Read on.
And the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language.
However, when they're spoken in their own language, there's no small difference, meaning that they all line up together. They're aligned. You understand? There is no difference in the doctrine of the Bible. In other words, like everything from the first 5 books to the law of the prophets are all aligned together. It's not a different doctrine. Even in the New Testament, it's not a different doctrine. It's an enhancement of the same doctrine by Christ himself. Well, we call the New Testament. But anyway, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. So now, before we get into the alphabet and everything, I just want to give a little historical perspective on Lashawan Qadash because, you know, I needed to have a little something when I came to class because I wasn't scheduled to teach. So I had to do a little research. And what I came up with was something that I thought might be interesting, is like a historical record of what happened. You know, this is just basic, what happened to our language. Now, according to the records, and these are the records of the oppressor, you understand, according to their records, they have proof that Lashawan Qadash, or what we call Paleo Hebrew, I'll write it down. Paleo Hebrew existed, at least in its written form, according to their records, at least 1,000 years before Christ. So it was a written language and therefore thereby a spoken language, according to their records, at least 1,000 years before the Christian era or before Christ. You understand? That's according to the era. Now, what that means is that this culture and this language was moving, was alive and kicking all that time, basically. That's what that means, okay? And so, but what I also found out was that okay, let's get a little data on it first. The Hebrew language lasted. It was spoken and in use, in full usage, according to their records that I researched, up until the 5th century AD. So from at least 1,000 years, we know that it goes back to Adam and Noah and stuff like that. We in the Isupk, we know this because the continuation of the bloodline, you pass the language down to your children, and the language is, you know, it keeps going. You understand? We just didn't all of a sudden just start speaking Hebrew. It was passed now. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. That's how important it is. You understand? But they have records of Hebrew being in use, written use and spoken usage from at least 1000 BC to 500 AD. You understand? And that coincides with the history of what happened to us, because in 70 AD, Jerusalem was sacked and destroyed by the Romans, and we were thus the last remnant of us. Well, not the last remnant, but the majority of us was scattered throughout the earth during that time, with at least 1 million of us fleeing into what we call today Africa. You understand? And subsequently, a remnant always stays behind, and the language lasted approximately 430 more years. You understand? I've been having a terrible cold. But so the language lasted all of this time. And then they said, according to my research, they said that around 500 years after Christ, the language disappeared or was no longer an operational language because we're dispersed. You understand? And now we're speaking the language of the heathen of the other nations, wherever we are, or maybe wherever we went, we maintained a semblance of our language, which we did in parts of Africa, because as you know, there's a famous map of Africa with a country called Judah on it, which I've seen myself. And it's a legitimate map. You understand? You got a question, brother? Go ahead.
No, not necessarily a question, just a comment. Even with what you're speaking on, I was speaking with a captain the other day about language. I was going over some things about Hebrew, and like I'm trying to brush up on my Hebrew, and he was telling me, he was asking me, he was like, "But did I know any other languages?" And I was like, "Well, I hold on." And he was telling me, he said, "Well, that's an American problem because in America, typically we only know one language. But like you stated earlier, even throughout our captivities, like our previous captivities, we still at least knew our Hebrew. We at least knew that one language. But even now, we don't even know that."
That's deep because that's the truth. Like in America, like, you know, I used to when I was growing up, you know, in all the other nations, even I didn't know that they were my brothers at the time, the Hispanic brothers. You know, they spoke multiple languages. Almost everybody had another language. Even some of the oppressors' children, like Italians, you know what I'm saying, and different groups, Portuguese, you know what I'm saying, in New York City, they maintained a semblance or a portion of their native tongue. And I used to envy that because we had no language. We only spoke the language of the oppressor. So what the point that the brother was trying to make is in accordance to what we're trying to show you here tonight, is that our connection to our language was a disconnect, as a matter of fact. And also that is prophesied. Bob Kashar, if you could give me Jeremiah 17:4, that was also prophesied to happen, that we would discontinue from our heritage. And I'll have the brother read it to you. And this is important that we understand not only the language itself, but the importance of the language, and to try to reconnect with the language itself, because a people's language is an expression of their culture and who they are, their mindset. Everything is entailed in their language. You understand what I'm saying? How we love, how we communicate. You understand? Our forms of respect, what we respect, what we love, what we hate. All of these things is in our language. You understand? You got that? Baba Kasham, read that if you could.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 4. "And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thy heritage."
For thou, I don't know if they can even see that board. You know what I'm saying? I don't see it. We got to get some black markers. Okay. It says, "For thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from the heritage that I gave thee." You understand? Meaning that we would stop operating and communicating as Israelites. You understand? Because this is part of the punishment that's upon us for turning our backs on the Most High. You understand? And in order for us to come back and to be who we really are, to be truly Israelites, we have to incorporate our language into our culture, because our culture is in our language. You understand? That's how important it is. And that's how we, communicate with one another. And even today, when you look at what they call ebonics, the speech pattern, what I learned when I started learning this Hebrew is that the speech patterns that they call ebonics is similar to the speech pattern of the Lashawan Qadash. You understand? The way we talk, you the man. We actually found a verse, Officer Tabawan found a verse in, I forget where he found it, where one of the brothers is telling David, and it says it's in the translation literally is "you the man," just like that. So this is certainly our language. And we love it. I love it. You know, all the brothers that come in and sisters that come in contact with it love it. You understand? And we want to learn this language so that, you know, we can reclaim it as ours and put it to use. The holy tongue is for the holy people. The set apart tongue is for the set apart people. That's what it is. You understand? And that's what it's all about. It's all about Israel coming back to being themselves and returning to the Most High in Christ. That's the purpose of the Isupk, Baba Kashah. If you could let me have Zechariah 2 and 1, Zephaniah 2 and 1, Salakia. Baba Kashah. Because this is what the Isupk under Commanding General Yohana is all about. This is what we're about. This is what we stand for. This is what we teach. This is what we love. You understand? This is what we labor for. You understand? Read.
The book of Zephaniah, chapter 2, verse 1. Gather yourselves together.
Gather yourselves. A group of people gather together. Gather yourself together. Read on.
Yeah, gather together.
Yea, gather together. This is a commandment. Read on.
O nation not desired.
O nation, a nationality. A nation is a nationality. It's not a border drawn up by the oppressor that we call nations today. According to the Most High, a nationality, a nation is a bloodline, an extended family. That's what a nation is. Baba Kashah, could you turn that heat off? Most High in Christ. It get hot in here quick. It's right there. They moved it. It's right there by the curtain. They moved the control. Yeah, they had that done. Most High in Christ, the water brother. Got hot in here, mad quick. Where was I? So the importance of our language, I cannot express it enough. You understand the importance of our language, okay? It's very important. And our language disappeared about the 5th century AD because we were scattered throughout the earth and we sort of like went undercover, so to speak. Like, you know, we were hidden. We became the hidden ones spoken of in the Bible and in the 83rd Psalm. You know, literally, we became hidden among other nations. And I imagine, knowing my people, that some of us struggled, you understand, to maintain the culture, but we're living among heathen, other nations. Understand? So it was difficult. And by the time we got here, 1,400 years later, or however many hundred years later, you know, we were totally destroyed when we were brought over here. Any connection that we had or any knowledge of our history and our past was taken away from us in what we call the cross-Atlantic, transatlantic slave trade. You understand? Where they totally wiped out any remembrance of ourselves, which is also in the 83rd Psalm, which is what they intend to do. Understand? We can be anything we want to be. We can be Muslims. We could be Christians. We could be Buddhists. We could be atheists. We could be anything. But you can't be a Hebrew Israelite. No. Can't be that. No, man. You understand? Why not? We are that. But this is something that they want to keep hidden from us. Also, one of the things I learned looking up the language is that this so-called Yiddish language that is spoken by the Jewish man or the Amalekite, you understand, who is the seed of the oppressor. He is not an Israelite at all. He claims to have a language that they call Yiddish, and they call it Hebrew, a form of Hebrew. But in fact, it's not Hebrew at all. As a matter of fact, what I found out, it originated in the 9th century in what we call Germany. You understand? And it's 80% of it is German, and only 20% of it is Hebrew. And that 20% of the Hebrew that they teach as Hebrew is not even Hebrew itself. It's a derivative of Hebrew. You understand? And they wasn't really studying Hebrew until 1880 is when the so-called Caucasian Jewish man began to revive a language that he called Hebrew, but was not, in fact, Hebrew at all. It was a form of Hebrew. You see, like in Haiti, they have a form of French. They call it Creole, but it's not French. You understand? It's a form of French. You understand what I'm saying? So this is the same thing with our language. The language that they call Hebrew is not, in fact, Lashawan Qadash. They can call it whatever they want. They can call it Hebrew. They can call it whatever they want, but it is, in its original form, it's the Lashawan Qadash. It's the language that we spoke from the beginning, and we shall speak it again at the end. You understand? Because it belongs to us. Okay? Yeah. It was a spoken language until the 5th century AD. It was revived in the late 19th century as modern Hebrew, which is what they teach around the world today. You understand? But it's not what we teach here in the Isupk. We teach what we call the ancient Hebrew, or the Lashawan Qadash, or in technical terms, they call it Paleo Hebrew. That's what they call it. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to get into the symbolism or the letters of our language, and then we're going to learn a little something about the language. You understand? But this is our language, and they've labored. I heard, I believe it was General Mayak. He was talking about how much they labored and how much money they spent, man. You know, and it's astronomical. Like, we can't even calculate how much money and work they went in to keep us from this, from knowing these truths that are given away free in the Isupk and the Commanding General Yohana every day in these classes. You understand? Because we love our people, and what we have for them is better than anything any other nation can offer them. As a matter of fact, the offer that the Most High gave with the covenant with Israel is the greatest offer ever offered anywhere on earth, or anywhere else for that matter, that we know of. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to just get into the alphabet. Now, our language is called Lashawan Qadash, or ancient Hebrew, and or the Holy Tongue, and it consists of 22 letters. And it's in the form of what they call, we'll get into this word later on, Abjad language. And what that means, I got it somewhere here. It means it's a written system in which each symbol as an or glyph stands for a consonant, in effect, leaving it to the reader to infer or otherwise supply an appropriate vowel sound. Okay, I'll try to explain that as I go along. Let's get into the alphabet. 22 letters or glyphs. I can see I can see that. Okay. Little. Right here, But everything else is he's trying to make it visible. The brother's helping me out. Trying to make it more visible to the audience. So forgive us. Okay. I know this is probably as big as I possibly could. Now I'm going to give you the letters and the write the sound. I don't know if they, okay, most high correct. Okay, we got the ah, the ba, the ga, da, ha, the wa, the za, the ka. Not a ka, the ha. It's a softer sound, ka. We got the ta, ya, the ka with the strong sound, ka, not the ha, the ka. There's a difference. The la, the ma, na, sa, I, pa, to za, the qua, ra, sha, fa. Those are the 22 Paleo Hebrew or original ancient Hebrew letters. You understand? And when I said, and then we're going to get into the what they call the modern Hebrew or the Assyrian Hebrew. They call it the Assyrian Hebrew because it was adopted under the Assyrian captivity. You understand? Which I believe was well, no, I'm not going to speculate. I don't have the exact date. But it was one of the major captivities that we went into. You understand? Because of our turning our backs on the Most High and everything he said he was going to do to us for doing that, he has done it. Everything. You understand? Okay, so with that being said, each one of these letters, except for one, which is the I, has an automatic ah sound after it. Or well, I guess after aside from the I and ah. Aside because the ah is the ah all in itself. And the I just has the I sound. But all of the other letters, this is what they mean by abjad. There is a presumption by the reader of these sounds. Like with the ga, you got the, it's not a, okay, there it is. With the ga, right? With the Ga, you got the G looking type letter, the letter G and the A, which gives it the ah sound. Ba, da, ha, wa, za, ka. All of these have the same mechanism. They work the same as far as like you don't have to infer, you don't have to add a vowel to make a sound. You understand? So, like if you take a letter like a word like I'm writing English backwards, man. Okay, what word would this be? What do you think that word is? Y'all see that? I'm writing it over here.
No,
You can see it?
I mean, I can see it. This is on but from the looks of it, it looks like it's Padam.
Yeah, that's what it is. Kodam. But see, but it has 3 letters up there. But in order to make this into a word and for us to be able to sound it out in English, we have to add 2 A's, right? And in English, those would be called vowels. The A's would be called vowels because you need a vowel to go in between a constant, the consonant in order to make the sound of a syllable, right? But in Hebrew, it's not necessary. It's not necessary to add a vowel because we already have those sounds built into the language. We already have the sound. So when we see this in Hebrew, and I'll get into the connectors in a minute. When we see this in Hebrew, we know that it's Kadam because we know that those sounds, the ah sounds, are already automatically there. You understand? That's the difference in our language, and that makes our language unique. It wasn't until recently that they coined that term, abjad. I think it's about 100 years old, that term. Kadam means east. Okay? That was the first word that came to my mind for whatever reason. But these are the 22 letters of the ancient Hebrew, Lashawan Qadash. You understand? This is the oldest language, written language on earth. You understand? You haven't found any language that predates this language. You understand? And there are other languages that they call Semitic languages like Arabic, Aramic, that are similar, I wouldn't say similar, but in the same family and work similarly. You understand? Arabic and the alphabet for Arabic and Hebrew have similarities as well because they come from the same family. The Arabs, who we call today, who is called in the Bible Ishmael, are the children of Abraham, as we are as well. But we are also the children of Isaac and Jacob, and they are not. So in that bloodline separated from Abraham to Isaac and Jacob, it's now a separate bloodline, and the language changed as we grew apart. They went to their land to live, and we went to our land to live, and the languages, they changed. You understand? But they're from the same family. That's why they call them Semitic languages. There's about 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember the name of all of them. But they're there. But we focus on our language, right? The Lashawan Qadash. Let's say it again. A, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ha, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, ha, to za, qua, ra, sha, va. You understand? This is the ancient Hebrew. Understand? The Lashawan Qadash, the holy tongue. Let me have 1 Corinthians 13:1 Baba Kashab. You understand? Because this language is mentioned throughout the scriptures. You understand? As being ours, But for all you New Testament cats, I'm going to give it to you. Read it.
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 13, verse 1. Though I speak with the tongues of men.
Though I speak with the tongue, the Lashawan, the tongue or the language, because that's what tongue really means. You understand? It doesn't really, literally mean a tongue. It means a language or a mode of speech. Though I speak with the tongues of men, and read on.
Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels.
And of angels. See, now, most people, when they read that scripture, if they do bother to read it, they don't get the point. They don't understand the depth, the totality of that statement right there. That is a heavy statement right there. He's saying, though I speak in the tongue of men, meaning that he, this is Brother Paul. He spoke many languages, well educated. He was a Roman citizen, but he was an Israelite. You understand what I'm saying? You can find that in 11, what is it? Acts 11:1. He's an Israelite. You understand? Or is it Romans 11:1? Romans 11. Okay, but anyway, he's an Israelite, but he's a Roman citizen, just like I'm an Israelite and I'm an American citizen. You understand? And I speak English. I don't speak Lashawan Qadash yet. But he's saying that he speaks different languages of men and, read the last part again.
And of angels.
And of angels, meaning he speaks the language that the angels speak. That's deep. Now, what does that signify? It signifies something that's very important for us to understand as Israelites, man. It means that when the angels communicate with the earth, they only speak Lashawan Qadash. And that's proof that the angels only communicated with Israel, which is attested in the Bible in the book of Psalms, chapter 147, verses 19 and 20. He only communicated with Israel throughout the whole Bible. So therefore, when the angels came and spoke Lashawan Qadash, that was considered the language of angels as well, because the Israelites were speaking it, and the angels communicated. Every prophet, every apostle in the Bible, from Moses to Christ, you understand, is an Israelite. Every last one of them. And the Most High only communicated through the priests and prophets of the Lord and other Israelite individuals as he saw fit. You understand? That's a big misconception in the Bible, which reiterates the importance of us understanding our language, the Lashawan Qadash. It's our language, and we're going to get it. We're taking it back, put it that way. We're taking our language back, and we're understanding our language. Now, this is the ancient form, but it's not in use today. You understand? But they have today in use what is called the Assyrian form, which is also 22 letters that make, in Isupk, they make the same sound. because we don't add any vowels and none of these other marks that they make, quotation marks, whatever kind of marks they make to change the sound of modern Hebrew. But these 22 letters, which I'm going to demonstrate, which I'm going to put up on the board, it was the same language. It was just a different alphabet. Let's keep it simple and put it that way. We being who we are, we always adapt to where, the old saying, when in Rome, do as Romans do. So we adapted this new alphabet, but we kept the same sounds because it's the same language. And now we're going to demonstrate that. Hold on. This is the ancient. The Assyrian is a Lashawan Qadash as well. It's just a different form, a different alphabet. That's the difference. Oh, I didn't go into the connectors. I tried, with time permitting, I'll try to go into the connectors after this. Our language is very unique. I love it. It's horrible. And it was only when we ran out of black. I bought a whole bag. But we got 12 markers. We don't have any more blue and black. You understand? We tried other colors too, man, but we tried. Yeah, but when I sent for the pack, I had bought like 4 blacks and 2 blacks came with the pack, and we used those up. So from now on, I'm just going to buy black and blue. You know what I mean? Or maybe a red. That's what we do. Most High in Christ. Okay, so now, as I was saying, let me see if I can write it in the green. Let me know if they can see it. Okay. And out last week, Let's see how this green looks. So let me know if you can see it on the screen. Can't see it, right? You can see it. That's why we use it. So we stuck using the brown. Yeah, even in the middle. Okay. We apologize for the inconvenience, and we got to make sure this don't happen again. Yeah, we're just gonna have to stick with the brown, which is terrible for the board. It's difficult to clean, and it's also not pretty. Brown skin is great, but the marker not so great for our purposes. Mm-hmm. Brown skin is most beautiful skin on earth. You know what I'm saying? Most High knew what he was doing. He gave us different shades of brown. Understand? Light to dark. Okay, so now let's get back to the brown. I gotta make sure I get some markers. Okay, so now come up here a little bit. This is good, right? Tar has like a little curve in it down here. It's better to wear it. I'll explain something. I know you see something up there. I might need to change this here. But these are the 22 letters of the Assyrian Hebrew, and in Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we pronounce these the same way we pronounce the letters in the ancient. So it would be, this is the Ah, this is the Ba, the Ga, the Da, the Ha, the Wa, the Za, and the Ka. Then we have the Ta, and that good old Ya, and the Ka, and the La, the Ma, the Na, Sa, I, the Pa, the Za, the Qua, the Ra, the Sha, and the Tha. Just like in the ancient. It's just different forms or different outfits that make the same thing. Now I'm going to say, and this is what you see more, this is what they use in modern English, although they change the pronunciation, because their spirit won't allow them to speak the way that we speak. You understand? That's the way I look at it. And in technical terms, it's because they wanted to make the language sound more like how they talk. You understand? So they put in these vowel sounds to, although they use this same alphabet, they put in these vowel sounds and these different, I don't even know the word for it, to change the sound of it. It's horrible. And I'm not going to spend no time on it because it doesn't even sound like Hebrew at all. If you hear it, we make fun of it when we go into the Blue Letter Bible and we bring up the pronunciation that they use compared to the pronunciation that we use, and it's absolutely comical. Absolutely comical, the way they pronounce it. But anyway, these are the 22 letters of what we call the Assyrian alphabet. The Assyrian alphabet, or the Assyrian Hebrew. 22 is different, but they make the same sound. Exactly. There is no difference. Now, see, same sound. Tha at the beginning, tha at the end. These are commonly used today in all of the books that you see Hebrew in. You will see 99.999% of the things that you see written in Hebrew will be written like this, in this form. It's not a problem for us because we learn them both. Especially we understand that they make the same sound. The ah in the Assyrian makes the same sound as the ah in the ancient, as well as the ba, the ga, the da. It's the same thing. You understand? Because this is our language. We know how it's done. You understand? And we're going to do it our way. You understand? We love the ancient, but we know today that we have to learn this as well in order to be able to read our language, because most of the Hebrew writings that you'll find today will be written in this form. You understand? And we'll learn them and we'll read it just as well. At the Sabbath service when we read, or if I'm at home and I'm trying to learn new words, I'll read it. This is the way I see it, and this is the way I read it. So if you come into the school, you come into the Lashawan Qadash class, you must learn this. Even though you might love the ancient, which I do. Everybody loves the ancient more than this. And if once you learn this language, you understand why. Because it's original. And the way we did it, the way the language was formulated, is the way we talk. You understand? Because as I said earlier, your culture, your language is the expression of your culture. That's what language is. The ideas, the laws, how do you love? All of that is in the language, man. Like they say, they call some of those Latin languages the languages of love because how they sound, I believe. I don't know nothing about it, but that's what I've heard. like French and what's the other one? French and maybe Spanish. I do like the way Spanish sounds though. I always like the way Spanish sound better than I like English, even though I'm not able to speak Spanish. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was gonna agree with you on that one too. I like the way Spanish sound, but I like the way it sound coming from our people, like the women. I love how that.
Papi.
Yeah, what?
But we love Spanish because it's our people and they got the flavor in the language. They put that flavor in the language. I remember there was a guy, his name was Felipe Lopez. And he was like a journalist. And I think he was from Puerto Rico, but he was from I think he was from Puerto Rico. He's an Ephraimite, and he went to Spain on a trip. This was back in the 80s, but I never forgot it. And he's a dark Puerto Rican, like he's from East Harlem, and he looks like a Puerto Rican, like a black man. And so he went to Spain, and he said because of the way he spoke, even though he was speaking proper Spanish, the way it was taught to him, he was educated. You understand? They discriminated against him, and they didn't have love for him as a Spanish-speaking person. He was just a Spanish nigger, in other words. And I remember him, he used to have a radio show in New York. I used to listen to the radio show. I'm trying to think of the name of it. And he used to have a radio show, and he used to talk about these kind of things. He was one of the Young Lords, which was a powerful political gang back in New York in the late 60s and early 70s. He was part of that. They were called the Young Lords, which is an interpretation of the word Boricua. You understand? Which is the native name for the island of Puerto Rico. Boricua, Boricuan. And they're Boricua. You understand? That's who they call themselves. The Lords or the people of God, they call themselves that. You understand? And so their language was taken from them as well, and they were conquered by the oppressor that spoke Spanish. And they began to speak Spanish, but of course, being Israelites, they had to add some flavor to the whole situation. You understand? And they have a difference in the manner in which the European Spaniards speak Spanish, as is different from the Dominicans or the Puerto Ricans, how they speak Spanish. It's different. It's a different flavor, man. Let's keep it like that. Keep it simple. There's a different flavor. Just like in Haiti, like they speak Creole, which is a form of French. And the brothers had to add their flavor to it. You understand? And that's what we do as Israelites. We are the soil of the earth, meaning that we bring the flavor or the style to the earth. That's what it says in the Bible. You understand? We're the salt of the earth, man. We bring the flavor, man, on this earth. I remember it was Carlos Santana, who I love as an artist. He said if it wasn't for, he said this, I think he said this back in the 90s or the early 2000s. He said if it wasn't for black people, America would still be listening to Beethoven. And I always remember that. He said that. You can look it up. Because he knew that every form of music in what we call America today comes from either blacks, Hispanics, or Native Indians. Even what they call country western. We started that music, and they stole that. You understand what I'm saying? They stole rock and roll. They stole jazz. You understand? Well, what was that music back in the 20s? It was a music before jazz. It was called ragtime music. You understand? And they stole that. They still in hip hop as we speak. It used to be called soul music. They changed it to R&B. But back in the 60s and the 70s, we called it soul music. But it's R&B now, and they steal that. What's my girl named Stephanie Mills said recently? She said they want to hear R&B, but not from us. Meaning that they want other people to steal our form of music and to make money off of it, and not us. That's exactly what she meant. When she said that, Stephanie Mills, I love that sister for saying that because it's the truth. Every music form ever invented in America, every one, comes from blacks and Hispanic people. You understand? Every music form that we listen to, salsa, reggae, I don't care what it is, reggaeton. You understand? All of those music, What's the other one? Dance hall. What's the other one they got down there in Trinidad? I can't think of the name of it, man, because I don't hear it down here in New York. They had their own radio station in New York, but down here you don't hear it. Soca. So they had Soca, and it was another one. It's real fast. What was the man? It's Mighty Sparrow was one of the top artists in that music form. We used to listen to it in New York because in New York you get all kind of music. When you go to, especially in the Bronx, when you go to a party in the Bronx in New York City, you hear all different kind of music because that's how it is. You know, I love that. That's one thing I love about New York. But anyway, this is our language. This is our language. It belongs to us. You understand? And it has different forms, but it sounds the same. It's the same wording. You understand? The same way you would spell it in the ancient, you would use the equivalent alphabet in the Assyrian. It's just that simple. You understand what I'm saying? And there's these letters right here. You notice that these 5 letters, the ka, the ma, the na, and the pa, and the tazah, I wrote it in 2 different forms because these 5 letters appear different when they're at the end of a word. You understand? So if you had a word like, what's a good word I can use? I can't think of the word right now. If you had a word that starts with an M or with a ma, Salakia, with a ma, and ends with a ma, at the beginning of the word, it would look like this. But at the end of the word, it would look like this. You understand? It's 5 letters. The ka, which transforms from this at the end of the word. The ma transforms to this. The na to this. The pa to this form. And the tazah to that form. That's in the Assyrian. In the ancient, we don't have that problem. We don't have that problem. Slack a second. Water. But yeah, so Lashawan Qadash, ancient and Assyrian alphabet make the same sound. It's the same. You know what I'm saying? You guys have to be able to recognize the letter. As in any language, you have to learn the alphabet before you learn the language. You have to learn the sound of each glyph or each alphabet in order to make up a word. So this is why we start at the beginning. Okay? And we go over this time and time again. Of course, the regular teacher of 500 Tabawan was not able to be here today. So I'm trying to teach what I know about this language. You understand? I'm not that advanced. I love the language, but basically I know maybe 100 words and the alphabet. You understand? And I'm beginning to learn how to formulate sentences and stuff like that. We're doing that. So, but I'm not on that level where I can teach you all of that yet. But just hang in there. We're going to learn the things that we need to learn about our language and love our language like we love our people and love our history. You know, it's important. I don't know. You got something, brother? You know, I don't know, you know, if people really understand. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to teach a little bit of Hebrew, but I'm trying to get us to understand the importance of it. You know, how important it is for us to reclaim our culture. You understand? And we must learn this language because this is how we learned the truth of the Bible. This was key. This was essential. Learning the ancient was essential to us understanding the differences in the Bible compared to the way it's translated in the world. You understand? And Hebrew is a wonderful language. It's like I said, like we was doing a class one day and we was reading, I think it was in the book of Kings, where the brother told David he was the man. And he said it just like that. The translation was, you the man, just like that. And I was like, whoa, that's us. Because we say that today, you the man. We invented that. We invented that term of speech. You understand? We're the greatest people that ever walked the face of the earth, by the way. You understand? So there's nothing that we can't do. There's nothing that any other people do that we can't do. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And more than likely, we can do it better than them. You understand? Because the Most High chose us. And if you know anything about the Most High, I always say this because it's true. The Most High he only wants the best, man. He only chooses the best. You understand? You understand? And it's not just a physical thing. You understand? It's a spiritual thing. He gave us a different spirit, you understand, from himself. You understand? And we are a special people unto the Lord. And we have a special language and a special culture. We're the only people. Let's finish reading Jeremiah 17:4. This is another thing that I want you to pay attention to, Baba Kashah, which means if you could or please. He says that you would discontinue from the language that I gave you. That's deep. You got to pay attention to these scriptures because, certain things we read, and we don't pay no attention to. What that says is that we're the only people on the earth, the Israelites, who have a culture, a way of life, giving to them a heritage. The culture is part of your heritage, directly from the Most High Power, man. You understand? That's how special you are, Israel. You're given a culture directly from the Most High Power. You understand? And for me, and I hope that other people, I know that the people in the Isupk feel this way, but you should feel special. You should begin to feel special being a Hebrew Israelite, an Israelite for that matter, because there's a lot of Hebrew. You understand? The oppressors are Hebrew. The Chinese is a Hebrew. You understand? In reality, you understand? Because they came from that same bloodline, which was distinct when it came down to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's when the distinction came between us and the nation. And that was the beginning of the covenant. And we are a special people. And it's a good thing. And it's a good language. It's a good culture. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the ancient, and we're going to get into what we call the connectors. And the connectors is something that we learn, and it's very simple. Once you learn this, it's the key to reading the ancient. And when you read the ancient, it helps you because you begin to identify the alphabet. And so you can identify the Assyrian alphabet as well, knowing that it has the same sound. You understand? You learn both alphabets. You have to learn. Okay. Oh boy, I gotta erase this brown again. Lord mercy. But I try to make it large so everybody can see. This brown give you a workout when you try to erase it. I'm gonna write it a little bit smaller. I'm gonna write the ancient a little bit smaller, but I'm gonna demonstrate what we're gonna get into now is the connectors, and so we can understand how the connectors work. Because we're smart people, man. You know what I'm saying? We know how to simplify, make things work simple, man. Understand? There's times when simple is better. Okay. Ra. Qua, Za, Pa, I, Na. Oh, that's what I left out. I left out the Na. I'm put the Na up here. The Na. Okay. This is the ancient. Okay. Now, in the ancient, when we write a word, let me see what it is. You see that? What word is that? Oh. Shalom. That's shalom. Yeah. You'd have to have they put another letter in between. And this word is what? Qadash. Now, in our, infinite wisdom, well, I wouldn't say infinite, but in our, intelligence, we created a system that is very easy to read. You understand? And we presented what we call connector. Very simple. You understand? Frown alone, smile together. You understand? Just like life. When you frown, you usually by yourself, or nobody wants to frown with you. But when you smile, they'll usually, people smile with you. You understand? And that's how we connect our letters. Now, right here, we have Shah by itself, Lum. Is it Shalamah? No. Why isn't it Shalamah? Because we use a connector, the smile, to connect these two letters together. Instead of being Shalamah, these connectors say that the R sound at the end of this word is not necessary. That's what the connectors tell us. And Qadash, Qua, Dash. It could be Qadasha, but this tells us that it's only Qadash. And there's no need for the R sound there or there. That's how our language informs us and gives us the speech patterns that we develop. Go ahead, read, brother. Go ahead, speak.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask. Now, is there like I guess like a book of words that you can look at? You see how we have the dash. Like, is there like a book that you can look at that has those words put together? So let's just say, so the next time you see a word, you don't have to try to read it. You can just look at it and know what it is because
you mean like your book of vocabulary, right?
Basically.
Yeah, like I asked that same question, and to my knowledge, there's none. I you know what? To be honest with you, I ain't gonna say his name, but a brother has a large list. A officer in the school has a list of a list of a lot of words, but I don't know if he wants to make it available. But he showed it to me, and I wanted it, but I didn't get it.
Yeah, and I only ask that because sometimes it's just
because that's the way we was taught to learn. Like when we was in school, we would get vocabulary words every week.
Right.
You understand? And those words we had to learn by the same class next week.
Yeah. Because just imagine, like we know our ABCs, right? Just imagine if we didn't learn it like that, and we just had to, and every word we saw, we had to go A and put the B. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It would be very
So
time consuming.
vocabulary is to be able to vocalize or to speak these words. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and I share the same sentiment that you have as far as having words, but it hasn't been presented that way in the class yet. So maybe in the future, like if I elevate myself to that level one day, you know what I'm saying, I will certainly begin to do that. You understand? And just in the form of like every week you got to learn 20 words or 10 words, and that would help. You know what I'm saying? As far as, but I don't know if we have that, we got to that point yet. You understand? It's not for me to decide. You understand? Most High in Christ. You understand? But learning words is a visual and a vocal aid into understanding and speaking a language. Because when we was in first grade, we used to get the cat in the hat. What's the name? Jack and Jill ran up the hill. We used to get words like that. You know what I'm saying? I remember, so I can't remember that far back. But we used to get small words: can, cat, dog, hat, car, bus. We used to get words like that. But as we got older and advanced in our education, we got more sophisticated words. So I think that we'll be doing something like that in the future. And we get words every week. We get words, like every week that I come here, I get a couple of words. It's important to expand your word knowledge, and that's part of learning the language. You understand? So that's very important. Salaki. So this is what we call connectors. These connect letters so that we can pronounce a word. That's their purpose. That's their only purpose. You understand? There's not no hidden agenda or nothing tricky about it. It's just that simple. If you see a word like this, okay, I'm gonna use my name. How would you know how to pronounce that? Would it be Yanazara? How would you know? See, that's the problem that we have when we read the Assyrian. Sometimes we have to guess because in the Assyrian, we don't have connected. So we do this. The Yah stands by itself. The Na stands by itself. But the Za and the Ra are connected. So we know when we see that, we know that is Yah, Na, Zar. Those two connected. It's not Yanazara because this right here indicates that the Ah sound behind the Ra is eliminated. And that's in every word. It doesn't change. Understand? Frown down, smile up. Frown alone or a singular sound, the smile unites them together into one sound. Wherever you see this, wherever you see that, you know, I'm exaggerating a little. Whenever you see that smile, you know that that's not. That's the da. Da ma. It's not the ma. It's dumb. not Shema, it's Shum. Okay? It's very simple, easy to apply, might take a little practice, but this is how we learn our language. You understand? Okay, let's get you got look at Lashawan, right? You can use this. La, let's sound it out as we go. La, the la stands by itself. You get the full sound of the la. La. The sha stands out by itself. You understand? So we got another thing. La sha. And then we got the wa and the na. It's not la sha wa na. It's la sha. One. Those two are connected. One sound. That's the whole purpose to understand. When these are connected, they make one sound. Whenever you see this, it's one sound. Never two sounds. Or two syllables. It's always one syllable or one sound. One. Understand? Dash. Lum. Zaw. Shum. Mum. It's just that simple. This is something that's unique to our language. I haven't seen it in any other language. I never heard of it being in any other language. But this is our language. This is the Lashawan Qadash, the language of the angels or the holy tongue. You understand? And it's recognized all over the earth. Like, it's not like they don't know about it or, you know, they don't know that it's ours. It's just that they don't want to make it known. You understand? You know, I caught a trick, and I've been watching this movie since I was a little boy. It's called what is it? With Moses, the Ten Commandments. Charleston Heston. And just a couple of years ago, I was watching it, and I noticed that when Moses came out of the mountains with the tablets in the movie, it's written in Lashawan Qadash. It's not written in modern Hebrew. You see? So that told me right away that the oppressor knows about it. But he refuses to use it because it doesn't fit his tongue. It's not his. So he uses the Assyrian and changes the pronunciation of the letters and makes up his own language called Yiddish. That is not Hebrew. Understand? Even the Hebrew that he learns in his yeshivas doesn't sound like the original Lashawan Qadash because they just don't give a damn. And they don't know, and it's not for them. This is our language. And it's very important that we learn this language again. You understand? And I just noticed that these like weeks? No, that's new. Because we just pulled out the brown. Well, within the last 2 weeks. I think the babies was working on it when they came for the feast. Yeah, we got to do something about that. But the Lashawan Qadash, Lashawan, the holy tongue, 22 letters with connectors that helps you to understand and to pronounce and read the words correctly. Whenever you see the smile, I just call it that, you know that those 2 letters are connected to make one sound. When you see the frown, you understand, you know that that letter makes the full sound. In this case, the ya. It's not yun, it's ya, na. Then these 2 are connected because they have the connector that connects two letters into one sound, and it's ZAR. Okay? This is consistent, it never changes. It's not, you're never going to see a case where you see this and the two letters are not combined or connected. You understand? You're never going to see this. You understand? The frown, we'll call it that. You're never going to see this and the two letters are connected to make one sound. Whenever you see this, this means that this letter keeps its full, syllable sound. Za, ya, ya. And this one, na. This over here is different because you have the smile, the connector, which connects these two letters into zar. Not zara, not zara, but zar. This is unique to the Lashawan Qadash, the ancient Hebrew, and this is important for us to learn as we move forward. You understand? So now, you think we need some more words? Let me see. Let's try to get some more words. Okay, I put up 3 words: Akkad, Lashai, and Shemawana. These are words for numbers in Hebrew. Okay, Akkad is the number 1. The Shai is the number 9, and Shemawana is the number 8. Okay, but we're not trying to learn the numbers today, but we're trying to show another demonstration on how on larger words, Shemawana, which is the number 8, has more letters. And so we're going to see how the connectors work in conjunction with this word. Okay? Sha, ma, wa, na. You see? These first 3 letters, Shemawana. Oh, that's something also that I failed to explain to you. However many connectors you see, that's how many syllables is in the word. That's very important. Salakia for not bringing that out at the beginning. However many connectors you see in a word in the ancient, that's how many syllables is in that word. Now there's 5 letters in that word. The sha, the ma, the wa, the na, the ha, but there's only 4 syllables. Okay? Sha, ma, wa, na. Because these 3, as I said earlier, because they're the frown, they stand out alone. Shama, wa. But these 2, because they got the smile, they together. You understand? They're together. Shamawa na, not na ha. Shamawa na. You understand? That's how the connectors work all the time. There's never a difference. It's always that way. Now we got smaller words. This is a cod, right? How many syllables is in this word? A cod. So how many connectors do we have? 2. A cod. This one standing the a by itself, and the ka, and the da together. A cod. In this word, the shy. How many syllables is in that word? The shy. So it's 2 syllables in this word, right? So how many connectors? The fa, sha. The sha and the I together is sha. Okay? Let me see another word that I can use. Salakia. This word, Aishara, is the number 10. Aishara. How many syllables is in that word? Aishara. That's 3 syllables, right? So that means that we have to have 3 connectors. Remember, however many connectors you have is the amount of syllables in the word. So it'll go like this. Each maintaining its full sound. I, Shara. Not, now if we did it like this, it would become a different word. It will become I saw. It's a totally different word. It's a totally different meaning. But when it's like this, I Shara, 3 syllables, therefore 3 connected. Understand? These are the basic things about Hebrew that we have to understand in order to learn the language. I'm giving you the bare minimum basic things about Hebrew, the alphabet, the connectors, the difference between the Assyrian and the ancient. You understand? And at the beginning, I tried to give you a little historical perspective on it. You understand? But it's very simple to understand. The smile connects, the frown alone. The smile connects, 2 letters. The frown, the letter stands by itself. Okay? That's everywhere in Hebrew, in the ancient. It doesn't matter what word you use. Kamash. That's the number 5 in Hebrew. Kamash. Understand? Would be spelled like this in English. How many syllables is in that word? So how many connectors do we need? There's 2. Ka, mash. That's what we need. This is absolute. It's consistent. It doesn't change. You understand? This is an aid, a visual aid to reading and understanding and pronounce words in the ancient Hebrew. The ancient Hebrew written without the connectors, then somebody made an error. You understand? Somebody made it. Because we're taught in here that you always, when you use the ancient, like let's say, Uncle Cabo wanted to do it, right? He called me up to the board to write a word in the ancient. And I wrote the word in the ancient, but I didn't include the connector. You know what he would do? He would say, la ah. He would say, Officer Yandazar, you left something out. Then I would look back at the board and I would realize, because this has actually happened. And I'm sure this is happening in every classroom across the Isupk in this country and around the world. When we're teaching this alphabet, that it's important to understand and to be consistent in what we do as far as the language and the use of the connectors. But the connectors only exist in the ancient. In the Assyrian form of the alphabet, there are no connectors. Salaki, I'm getting a little thirsty. It did cool off in there a little bit. But okay. So how much time is that? 15 minutes? 15 minutes. What can we do in 15 minutes? Okay, let's for 15 minutes, let's learn numbers in Hebrew. Okay, we're just gonna do in the ancient, because we got to master the ancient. I always felt that I had to master the ancient before, I tried to mess with that Assyrian, because once you learn the ancient, it's easier to read and understand the Assyrian. Okay, so what we're going to do for these last 15 minutes is we're going to go over the numbers in the ancient. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with, of course, we always start with Hebrew. Right? So now, March. Okay. Okay. So these are numbers, the numbers in the ancient Hebrew. Okay. What we're gonna do is what we've been doing for the last 5, 10 minutes is this we're gonna just look and connect. Okay. And we just gonna, however many syllables is in the word, that's how many connected. Know when and where to place. Okay. All right. So this is a cod. A cod is numero uno, number one. A cod. How many syllables are in that word? Two syllables, two connected. Shanya, number two. How many syllables? Shanya. Now, see here, this is a little different here because here the first two letters are connected. Shan, Ya, and the last letter is by itself. Shanya. You understand? Two syllables, two connected. But they have to be properly placed. It's not always that first word is not always a frown by itself. Sometimes that connection is at the beginning of a word, such as in this case, Shan Ya. Two syllables, two connected. You see there? Two syllables, two connected. Shan Ya. Shan Ya. Now we have here number three in Hebrew, which is Shalash. Shalash. How many syllables? Two syllables, two connected. Shalash. Now here is the difference. The first letter stands alone, the sha and the la and the sha together are united because of the connection. Now we got number four, cuatro. Araba. How many syllables there? Araba. 3 syllables, so we have to have 3 connectors, right? But where do we put them? Ah, that sounds right. Ra, that sounds right. Ba-I. Oh, that don't sound right. That would make it 4 syllables, right? So we have to connect these last 2. Araba. Ah, Ra, 2 connectors, Ba. It doesn't matter. It never changes. However many syllables, that's how many connectors is in the word. I don't care if it's 14 letters, if it's 3 syllables, there's only 3. I mean, if it's only 3 connectors, there's only 3 syllables. You understand? That's how it works. In the ancient, there's no connectors in the Assyrian. Okay? You have to, that's why we have to learn the ancient, because that helps us to learn the Assyrian. Okay? So we learn the ancient quickly. I did. Now we have the number 5. Kamash. Kamash. How many syllables? Kamash. Ka. Mahasha. If it's Kamasha, it would be 3 syllables. And it would be connected. But it's Kamash, meaning that there is only 2 connectors. Only 2 syllables. I'm just showing you the consistency, you understand, of how this language works. Very simple, but it's brand new. So we understand that it might not seem, so easy to the newcomer. But as you learn it, it's a very simple system. You understand? It's a great system. Okay, so now we have number 6, el número 6 in Espanol. In New York City, there's a train called the number 6 train, and it runs from the East Bronx into East Harlem. And they made songs about this train because this is where all of the Latinos live. Along this line, most of the Latinos live. Wherever the number 6 train was, from the Bronx all the way down to to East Harlem. But it goes further. It goes all the way downtown into Brooklyn and stuff. But along that line, except for Midtown, you'll find Hispanic. So they had a song called El Número 6. It was a song about the number 6 train. It was made by a salsa band. I can't remember their name, but it was. I used to hear it in the morning. In New York, you get you can hear any kind of music you can imagine almost. They got their own ready. They got several. I'm gonna tell you a secret. When I go to New York, I always put on the salsa channel when I'm driving around because it makes me feel at home. Like I don't hear no salsa music when I'm down here. But when I'm in New York, I put on the salsa channel, man, and I'm driving the Grand Concourse down to Harlem from the Bronx where my mother lived, and I'm driving down, and I got on the salsa, and I feel like back home. But that's El Número 6, number 6. As a sidebar. The number 6, Shasha. How many syllables is in that word? Shasha. 2 syllables, 2 connectors. Shasha. Shasha. Number 6, 2 syllables, 2 connectors. Now, we got Shabbat. The number 7, siete. Number 7, Shabbat. How many syllables? 2 syllables, 2 connectors. Now you got the sha and the ba and the I. Not Shabbat I, it's Shabbat. Number 7. Now we get to number 8. Shema Yana. Shabawana. Shemawana. Shema, wa, Shema, wa, na. Yeah, that's A. Shema, ma, wa, na. Or Shema, wa, na. How many syllables? Shema, wa, na. 4 syllables. Sha, 4 connections. Sha, ma, wa, na. Na, Shema, wa, na, ha, which would be 5 syllables. Shema, wa, na, 4 syllables, 4 connected. These last 2 are connected. And so what I'm showing here, demonstrating here, is the consistency of it. It never changes. However many syllables, it's the same amount of connectors. However many connectors, it's the same amount of syllables. It never changes, okay? You're never going to see 4 connectors in 2 syllables. You never, I don't care how many letters there is, you're never going to see 4 connectors in 3 syllables. You're always going to see 4 connectors, 4 syllables, 2 connectors, 2 syllables. And 1 connector, 1 syllable. Here's an example. Shum, which is name. Shum. 2 letters, but 1 syllable, 1 connector. Okay? Very consistent is what we do. Okay. But number 9, nueve. Okay. Number 9, Basha. Basha. Number 9. Nueve. Number 9. And Basha. How many syllables? 2 syllables. How many connected? 2. Basha. Understand? This is the basics. We learn these things, we learn our language. We learn these numbers. I remember being in kindergarten. I mean, I couldn't write it, but this idea is like, when I learned this is like I was in kindergarten. So I understood the concept of learning from the basics. And this is how we do it. We learn from the basics. We learn the alphabet first. Just like when you in kindergarten, the first thing you know, E, like that. It's the same thing here. We learn the letters first. And the pronunciation of the letters. And we learn more words. Then we learn bigger words. Then we learn sentences. That's how we do it. In high school, with the Lashawan Qadash class, it doesn't change. It's not good. Okay? So we got one more number. How much time is that? That's time. We got one more letter. We'll close out after this. The number 10, 10. In Spanish, Aishara. 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 How many syllables? Aishara. 3 syllables. I, Sha, Ra. Each, 3 letters, 3 syllables, means that each letter maintains its full time. This is consistency throughout the ancient Hebrew. It never changed. That's what it is. And this is the basics of our language, Lashawan Qadash. And with that, I turn the class over to Priest and Prophet, Kaparia, and I thank you for tuning in. I hope that I help somebody learn a little something about Egypt. This is what we do. We're just going to figure it out.